Welcome to Music City Fitness with your hosts Josh Gamble and Kat Beach. Talking real deal health and wellness and, well, all around body talk. The friends and colleagues from across the globe are here to share their views with you too. It's just another day in the journey, so grab a drink and a bite to eat and hang with them for a while as they open up new ideas for you.
Hi, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us at Music City Fitness. Myself and Josh Gamble, my co-host.
Hey, everybody.
We're trying to sound excited and positive, and usually we are. And so we're gonna find that energy. But for those of you who don't know about our podcast and our live vlog, we're here every Tuesday night. And we talk about fitness, we talk about health and wellness, we talk about so many different things. So Josh and I decided to call it Music City Fitness, but gosh, we've discovered that it's blossomed into so much more, and we're grateful for it. But we're excited that it's taken a whole different journey. And so we're thankful for that. Anyways, I'll move into tonight. I'm very rarely speechless. And so you see me stuttering around my words because tonight I come to you feeling a little uncomfortable in my own shoes. As we're co-hosts and we're health and wellness, and we have some wonderful guests on tonight. But I know that a lot of people are suffering and challenged by a virus, and it's something that's really affected all of us. And I'm trying very hard to stay on point, and I'll continue that. Right, Josh?
That's right.
He's laughing at me.
I am.
It's hard.
A little overthinker over here.
I know. It's a female trait. Anyway, so
no, don't use it as a female trait excuse. You're just an overthinker.
I'm just an overthinker, and quite frankly, Josh and I got some challenging news today. So I'm overthinking it, and he's not. But that's just the way life goes. But regardless of that, I have to say right off the top, because Tom Schaefer, who you will see, he does all of our technical work and production. Please subscribe to Music City Fitness and click or come in, whatever it is. Just hit the bell, whatever you have to do technically. But I'm going to introduce some people. So Tom Schaefer, please, you can unmute if you would.
Hey, Kat, how are you?
Thank you, Tom. So
Good
Tom,
to see you guys.
Tom,
Good
where
to
are
see
you tonight?
I am in beautiful South Florida. Well, not totally South. I'm in central East Florida, between Melbourne and Vero. So it's nice here.
Fantastic. And Marisol, I believe you were there. You go. She's like, I'm unmuted. You can stay unmuted now.
Okay.
Marisol Palau, as in New York, but where exactly in New York are you?
So I live in Dutchess County, New York. So it's about an hour north of New York City. And then I'm an educator in New York City. So
in the Bronx, to be
in the Bronx, New York, yeah.
And Ned Albright,
Hello,
where are you, dear?
I am right here.
What he means to say is Los Angeles, but we're going to go with that.
Wherever I am, I'm right there.
That's a brilliant statement by Ned Albright, the songwriter of the century.
But seriously, I'm in Los Angeles, California, on a beautiful day, and we've been out and about a little bit today. We went walking. They tell us to stay in, but we went for a walk, and we also went to our local supermarket, which was an interesting experience here in Los Angeles. We have serious runs on the food providers. They've closed the restaurants, and so we have, it was, let's say, unusually crowded for a Tuesday at like 11 in the morning. The place was packed.
which is scary.
Anyway, so I'm in LA and I'm on, so you got front,
Covered
middle,
it all.
you got it all. We got the whole country.
But what we don't have is Corinna Mendis, and she's going to come on in just a moment. She works at a hospital in New York, and so she got off just a piece of time ago, and will be popping on in just a minute. We also have Bobby Garland that's not on right now. She's with you though, Ned.
He's making tea.
Perhaps just wave, Bobby. Oh, there he goes. It's a sit and wave. Really important for all of us. Josh and I thought it was really important to get a lot of people from different states to come on and talk. And so the anxiety across America and beyond is really, really high. But I would rather make sure that we stay grounded in our understanding of what's going on with the virus. And so I'd like to start, if I could, Marcel, with you. And the reason that's important to me is that we're dealing with children in the Bronx and their world when the schools are closed. And so if you wouldn't mind telling a lot of the people who are in the chat room, by the way, and Josh, you may see it. Are you watching the chat room? Okay, so if there are any questions, they'll probably ask you as well. But what's it look like on New York City Bronx?
So it's been rough. All of last week, we were trying to stay positive with our students. Just a little bit of background. I work in the South Bronx, so it's considered the poorest congressional school district in the country. So we just try to stay positive. We kept telling the students we were going to stay open as long as we possibly could, and that we were going to be there for them. Giving them the message not to worry, because at the end of the day, no matter what happened, we were going to be there. We started preparing for the possibility of a shutdown last week. We made packets for students to take home so that they can continue learning. We were proactive in that sense. We sent home passwords for things. But as the reality set in that we were going to have to transition from classroom learning to online learning, we began to see numbers that we haven't really understood before, because kids have like mobile phones. So they're like, oh, they have the internet, they have computers. So now that we've transitioned over to online learning, our schools are shut down for a week while we prepare for it. But I spoke to 70% of my parents today, and about 70% of my students don't have access to computers, or 40% of them don't have access to internet. And so we can't all right, we're going to try our best to transition onto online learning, but when you have 70% of your population can't even access what we're trying to give them, it's difficult. To stave that off, we're lending out school laptops. So kids can come pick up a laptop from the school, and we're lending them out. But now we're faced with getting the students, those 40% of students who don't have internet access, to get internet. So it's completely disrupting their entire normal routine. A lot of times, and we say this often, the most secure thing that our kids have and the most stable thing that our students have is coming to school from 8:25 to 3:00 every day. And that's no longer there. So it just leaves so much open to what could happen.
And maybe it won't be 2 weeks.
Right. I mean, we're shut down for a month. We're shut down from now until April 20th at the earliest. Right.
So what happens for their food? Because the one thing Connie told me is that may be their only food during the day.
So
at all.
Right. So I was kind of talking a little bit before this about the fact that our students, the district that I work in, 30 to 40% of our students live in temporary housing. So that means they live in shelters, they live in hotels that are hotel rooms that are modeling as homes. They may live in situations where 2, 3, 4 families are all living in the same 1 or 2 bedroom apartment. And so food is really scarce. And a lot of our students come to school, and the breakfast that we give in school, the lunch that we give in school, and even the snack that we give between school and our after school program, they get their meals from us. We have sent home some school food with students, like, oh, can I have an extra muffin? And we have students who will take that food home to their families, and now that's not available. So that's one of the major things that we were concerned about. This week, the city has dealt with that in regards to, and not just in my district, but the city, like all 5 boroughs of the city. Any student all week can go to the door of their school and receive the bagged breakfast and a bagged lunch. But we're not sure what's going to happen come Monday, because that was set up for this week. So students accessing food is a huge concern. We have done some things, like we've called, I made a list of about 20 food pantries that are within 5 miles of our school. We made a list of soup kitchens within 5 miles of the school. And last week we were calling all of them to find out their policies and procedures. And at the time, they were all like, we're going to stay open no matter what the city does. But if the city completely shuts down the way it's projecting to be shut down, then even food pantries and soup kitchens are not going to be available. So we're going to be relying on the kindness of neighbors, or the hope that children are going to be fed in the next month at minimum, if not longer. So that's kind of on our end. I'm a school counselor, so on my end, that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about our food. I'm worried about the ability. I mean, luckily the electric companies and have been told not to cut off electricity if people can't pay bills, and people can't be evicted right now. But how long is that going to last, and how stable are they going to have to pay it back? Because my families live, if at bare minimum, paycheck to paycheck. And that's if they're lucky, they live paycheck to paycheck. So sometimes they're living where they're hoping that tax money comes in, or they're hoping that they can get a reprieve for something. So if they're going to be expected to pay this money back, they're not going to be able to. A lot of our families are losing jobs because they're temporary jobs, right? If the supermarkets are not running, if restaurants are not open, my parents who are waitresses or servers or cooks are not going to have jobs. And so if once this is all over, are they going to be rehired? Are they gonna, there's not back pay, right? I'm going to get paid no matter what. I'm lucky, but a lot of my families don't have that. So it's the instability now and the instability of the future. Like, what will happen once this kind of all settles down? What's going to happen at that point? Like, are they going to be able to catch up? Are they going to be given a pass for these however many months of rent or of light? And then it's going to be going back to deal with that.
Yeah. And that's very scary, because right now the connectivity is low too. So if you can't communicate with these kids or their parents, I'll just go with the kids.
Yeah.
Who slips through the cracks?
Who knows, right? Like, and so that's what we're trying to figure out now. I'm getting a database of phone numbers. And so throughout the week, we're expected to work the same hours that we're working. So that's going to basically be, I'm going to spend from 8:25 to 3 o'clock every day calling and just checking in on students and seeing who has logged on to do schoolwork and who hasn't, checking in to see if there's food. Our families who are a little bit more well off, if there's like someone that I know, like, oh, you don't have any food left, maybe the family that lives across the hall that also goes to our school, or we're connected. Like, ultimately the guidance team, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to figure out where we can make the connections to provide as much support as possible, and where our kids can contact us, so that they can tell us if something is going on, right? Because if they can't contact me, how am I supposed to know that there's no food? Right. And so that's what we're trying to work out right now, is getting them some way to contact us.
That's even though it's a week, but I'm going to guesstimate, just judging by the fact that Josh and I found out, that it's probably going to be about a month before things happen for us in the health and wellness world. It's about the same for you.
Yeah. Right now we're shut down until April 20th.
Oh, okay. So you already know that you are. I'm sorry.
Up until April 20th, because our spring break was supposed to be April 8th. So they just closed the schools through April 20th. Up until April 20th, we know we have no school. After that, it's still up in the air. But again, this is not something we planned for, because while the school system is on spring break, typically we have our community-based organizations, or like a spring break camp or something, where kids are still in the school building. They're still receiving meals. They're still receiving support and like a place to go, like a safe place to go.
Yeah.
And so that's what we typically get in regards to spring break, but now it's a month, right? There is no
Yeah.
school open for lunch. There is no program. So if our parents have to go to work or being mandated to go to work, there's nothing, no place for the kids
No,
to go that's safe. No,
and no childcare.
there is childcare only for people who work in healthcare and the transit system or first responders because they have to go to work. But the city is thinking, again, the district where I work in, a lot of our parents may be undocumented, maybe out of status families who don't have necessarily like union jobs or benefits or anything like that. So they go to work or they don't have a job, and there's no way for them to fight it.
Yeah.
So where do those parents leave their children while the school is closed?
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, we also have 79,000 educators who also have families that the city needs to think about. So me traveling into the city can expose my family to everything when right now where I live up in Dutchess County, we don't have any confirmed cases. We don't have like that concern. And we have shut down everything up here in spite of not having any of that.
Yeah.
So, there's that balance. Like educators are people too who have families and we need to care for them. But then of course we're educators and we went into this field for a reason. So then we sit back and we think, I'm okay, 100% I'm okay, but my students are not. And
Right.
so I sit at home and I'm like, how are they doing? Are they going to have food? Are they going to be safe?
Because
So
they're the epicenter. They're literally in
they're
the.
literally in the epicenter of what's going on. We're right on the border of New Rochelle, which was like, there are parts of the Bronx where if you cross the street, you're in New Rochelle, and you cross the other street and you're back in the Bronx. And so we're right on the border. And so it's all of that uncertainty. It's like, it's right there, but it's not us. And
Yeah.
so it's been a very fluid week prior to this, because we were just having to go with whatever came down, and having the school close over the weekend without us being able to. If the school had closed on a Monday or a Tuesday, we would have sent laptops home with the students as they walked out the door. Right? Our attendance in my school is 95%, right? On a regular basis. So 95% of my students would have had a laptop walking out of the building. Now we have to figure out a way of communicating with all of these students to come pick this up, and they're not allowed in the building. So now it's all the logistics of how do we hand someone a computer when we're supposed to be staying 6 feet away from them. And so
And it seems like New York City, just across the board, everything's completely closed.
Everything.
Yeah.
Bars, restaurants, everything. The only thing running right now is the healthcare system and the transit, and that's about it.
Wow.
So,
That's sobering. That's it's painful because I'm thinking about the children, and well, I have very few words, and everybody knows it's a rare occasion when I have few words.
Marisol,
yes.
can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
You say that you are going to be able to hand out laptops and you will continue to be able to provide food, breakfast and lunch. That's correct?
That's just for this week. So our online learning platform goes online on Monday. So students can come this week to pick up computers, laptops from us. And there are also a few companies that are offering free internet, but our parents have to call the companies to come set up the free internet. So we're providing those resources to our families, and food is only for this week so far. After that, we're not sure what's going on.
Okay, but my follow-up to that is, is your funding all from the state, or do you get some federal money? And also, do you have any private or corporate donors to your school?
So we have federal funding and state funding coming through in two different sections. We don't have any private funding coming into the school because we're a New York City public school, as opposed to some of the charter schools and some of the private schools in New York City. They have other funds, but we don't have.
None of the corporates come to you with an offer to
No.
Where do your computers come from?
That we have some Chromebooks and some MacBooks.
Were
And
they donated by Google or somebody?
some of them were, but my administration does a really good job at like the way we organize the money and we budget to buy technology for our school. We happen to be a technology school, so we budget for that in our school budget. So part of them were donated, and then part of them were paid for outright by our school budget.
Right. Right. Yeah. So well, I'm on the other side of the country, and I live in an affluent area. We are also um, dealing with coronavirus. The difference is in an affluent community, it's dealt with differently than in a poor community like what you're working with, which points up a bigger flaw in our system, that there's so much money at the top and so little at the bottom to cover you guys for what you're doing. But the one of the redeeming features of COVID-19 is that it affects all people,
Mm-hmm.
rich and poor. So it's gotten attention because of that. Look at all these world leaders. The mullahs in Iran have it. The mayor of Miami has it. You know, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's a lot of people, because they're interacting, doing a lot of international interacting and all of that kind of stuff. So but it's amazing to hear your microcosm. But I think it speaks to the fact that somehow our government has not been able to handle, you know, at the very least, that end of the spectrum. But as you go to a lot of public schools, but in more affluent areas, you have more funding.
Yeah.
And so they get a kind of a head start in that regard. Listening to your tale is you know, and if the virus comes to your community, it's going to be a lot worse. It's going to be,
Yeah, I don't even want to think about what that could look like if
yeah.
we were to get hit hard with the virus in our community right now. Like, I don't even know. We
Well,
also, when we're living on top of each other, the way people
Yeah.
like Kat mentioned earlier, driving by the projects in the Bronx, that's 26, 27 stories of people. There's hundreds and hundreds of people living in one building, all piled on top of each other. If they get it, it's going to be a really quick spread with the close proximity of people.
Yeah, it's a quick spreading virus anyway.
Yeah, it is.
It's really amazingly quick. I mean, the cases double and triple, and you know, by the end of the week, it's to the power of.
I think Hi everyone, I'm Corinna.
Oh, by the way, let me introduce you, Corinna. I'm so sorry. Corinna,
It's
Corinna
okay.
Mendes is a dear friend of mine and works in a hospital in New York. And she popped on a little late because she got off from
I'm on call, but
from being she's on call, but she's had a long day. But Corinna, thank you for being here, honey.
Oh, of course, Kat. I mean, I'm glad it worked out. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sweetie.
It's
by the
you know, it's hard. I mean, I know there's so many things in my head that I want to say. You know, I know like even the nurses that I work with. So I work as a physician assistant. I used to work frontline emergency room. I'm not in the ER right now, but I work on a detox unit, like a medical withdrawal unit. So I see patients coming through the emergency room. So I still have to be down there. I still have to evaluate patients. What I was going to say, a lot of the nurses I work with, they don't, you know, their husbands are working too, or they're police officers. They have to go to work. And they're being told that their children can't go around their parents because they're in that age bracket where they're more likely to get it. So they're trying to like shuffle to find someone to babysit or to switch their shifts. The other thing with talking about being in an affluent community, the community I'm in right now is, I mean, it's upper middle class, you know, where the hospital is. And I think a lot of people are still kind of like not really understanding the magnitude, or maybe they're just kind of turning a like, just, not that they don't want to admit to it, but I feel like it's not. I go to the stores and I don't think people are really, they're still coughing and they're still touching their faces and they're still touching everything. And,
Yeah.
I even run into people in the hospital who are like, oh, can you believe that they're blowing this up the way it is? And I'm like, this is actually a big deal. Like, we should be taking this seriously. It's spreading like wildfire. Um, and even though this is an affluent or, upper middle class community, we still don't have all the tests. We don't have enough tests to test for everybody. And the testing that we do have are saved for people that are only having, like, starting to have symptoms, and then when everything else is ruled out, like the flu is ruled out or RSV is ruled out or another type of pneumonia is ruled out, that only then
What's
did it.
RSV?
It's a virus that actually mostly children get, and it causes respiratory issues.
Can you?
Respiratory. Oh, go ahead.
Hi, Corinna. Hey,
Hi.
we were talking earlier before you came on. Can you give people a little better picture about why it's not just the flu and why it's so dangerous? What is happening in the human physiology
I
in the
mean,
basics
I mean, I
that
don't,
makes
I
it
don't, I don't claim to be an expert at this, and I'm not, I
but the
would,
basics that people can understand why it's not just the
I
flu?
I.e., what's the difference between the coronavirus and the flu?
I think that it's attacking our cells. It's, I guess, the any kind of virus will attack the cell and go through the proteins and kind of find a way to host itself inside the cell and then mutate so it takes over the cell. And I think because it's so strong, it's causing what they call this, like, cytokine storm in the body, which I'm not exactly sure why this is stronger than influenza A or influenza B, but for some reason it's so much stronger that the immune system isn't able to fight it as well as it can fight off the other, the other flu viruses. But I'm not sure exactly the physiology why it's so strong. I do know though that it mutates every time it goes from one person to the next, and every time it mutates, the stronger it gets.
Well, I've heard this,
So,
and maybe you can speak to the truth or this, not real simple,
mhm.
that this mucus that forms in the lungs is harder to remove from the body. Is that also true?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. That's what
Okay,
it
and then it
sounds like.
also
Yeah.
is supposedly inhibits the body's ability to
To-
carry oxygen in the blood.
Right,
Is that also
right.
true?
It
Okay.
is true. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're harder to clear the
So you
secretions.
can't get air, and then
Right.
you can't move the oxygen
Right.
that you do
Can't
get.
breathe, right. So then you ultimately end up getting intubated. So you're on a breathing tube and you're on a ventilator. Um, we did have a case I can't really talk about in depth, but we did have someone who was young, relatively young, who was on a ventilator, very sick. We had to transfer them to another hospital because sometimes if this happens and you're like young in your 40s or 50s, you can fight it off if you have a good immune system without an underlying condition. Some people don't realize they have the underlying condition until they get attacked by this virus now, and then they realize that, oh, there's something else going on in addition, and that's why they can't fight it off as well as, like, someone else can, like you or I.
Right.
Are you in Nashville?
I'm in New York. I'm in Long
New
Island,
York, actually.
actually.
You're on Long
Yeah,
Island.
I'm on Long Island. Yeah.
Have you seen how many cases? Where on the island are you?
I'm in a town called Port Jefferson, so it's the North Shore of Long Island, right? Kind of like smack in the middle,
My,
between
my
Manhattan.
sister, my sister lives in Port, which is also there.
Where does she live? I
But
missed.
t- she lives in Port Washington.
Oh, Port Washington. Yeah, that's the other port. Everyone confuses the two.
But so how many cases are you seeing?
Well, we're lucky in my hospital, it's very low. I think right now we had 2 confirmed, and now we have about 7 that we're ruling out. In other hospitals I've heard, I don't on the South Shore, I know that there are a few hospitals, one has 35 cases confirmed, another one has, like, 16 or 20 cases confirmed. So, we're talking today about, well, what happens when we don't have any room, to house everybody. I,
Mhm.
I think on Long Island alone, there's maybe 97 cases or 100 cases right now. But I think in all of New York, it's even more now than it is in Seattle. I mean, in Washington, where most of the cases were in Washington. Now New York is surpassing that number.
Scary.
So yeah, I mean, and I think, everyone that comes to the emergency room, these are just confirmed cases. I mean, we could all be walking around with it and we don't know because we're
Absolutely.
not having symptoms and we don't have enough testing. I can't just go and say, oh, give me a test. I have to actually be having symptoms for a few days in order for them to actually do the test on me.
How are you being protected? Like, how do you protect yourself when you're in that environment?
Well, I mean, working in the ER, everyone has to wear an N95 mask. They have to wear goggles. They have to wear a gown. But in the rest of the hospital, we're just wearing masks, and it's not always an N95 mask. And it's hard because, excuse me, it's so funny because you're always touching your face. But I just took a shower, so I'm okay.
Don't worry, I'm
I know, like. But on the floors, we're all wearing masks right now. But it's, what if someone has it in the ER and they come to the floor and you're not wearing all the protective gear and you come in contact with them? And the CDC guidelines are constantly changing. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask. Like with the mask shortage, then it's like, well, should we wear masks? Well, maybe it's okay not to, but we're all advised now. We're encouraged to wear a mask. So, and I think because of the level of uncertainty and not knowing if you're going to come in contact or not.
They also, at first they said that the mask only helped if you had it. And that if you didn't have it and you were wearing a mask, that would not prevent you from getting it.
Right, exactly.
So I don't know if that, how much of that, but now they're telling everybody just get a mask.
Just wear a mask, and I mean, and really at the end of the day, I mean, we should all do what we should be doing anyway during flu season, and washing our hands and not touching our faces. Well, really, the mucous membranes, because that's where it starts, in the eyes and the mouth and the nose.
Without the testing, is it possible that I had something last week that I'm now clearing up from?
Mm-hmm.
And I read about these mild symptoms. I'm thinking, well, I don't get sick, number one, ever.
Mm-hmm.
I rarely ever get anything. And I had a snurf, and then it got bad at the end of the day. And then the next day I had taken Benadryl. Anyway, it took me a week now to where I'm finally getting clear. But I have kind of annoying cough, and I still have a little bit of a nasal drip. And I'm thinking, okay, was that just that, or was it something else, or was it the mild symptom?
The other thing, it's hard to say because it's allergy season now. So people start coughing and everyone, it's like,
exactly,
the other way, but it could just be allergies.
But fever is a distinguishing characteristic.
I was going to ask you if you had a fever, because that's really.
I may have had, okay, here's what happened. It was a week ago Sunday, so a Sunday plus 2, so 9 days ago. So it was a Sunday evening. I felt really bad, took a couple of Benadryl, and I did have a kind of a chill a little bit for a few minutes. It didn't seem like it was very long. I got into bed, went to bed early, and the next day I woke up and I was better. And it seems like it has been progressively getting better. So I didn't get worse. But the stuff I coughed up the Monday and Tuesday was just, I have never coughed up green before. And it was like, okay, that was bad. But it has progressively gotten better. Now it's just an annoying cough. So was that it? Did I get mild symptoms?
Anything is
well, wait. Going along with, pardon me, Corinna, for interrupting, but going along with Tom, I had identical experience, and Tom knows this, and actually everybody here knows this except for Marisol and Ned. I had 100.7 fever for the first day, and 100 a little bit heavier for the second day, and I just quarantined myself. I had a cough, and this I hadn't traveled out of Nashville, and I had a cough that was painful for my chest, and quite frankly, I haven't gotten sick in 6 years. And so I thought, oh, this is problematic. But it wasn't a mucus filled cough. It was a dry cough, and it was slightly pressure filled. So of course I freaked out, because you guys know me well. But I fought it for 11 days, and I stayed quarantined from everybody else. But it's very feasible. Is it feasible that could be
I mean, generally it's the dry cough and the fever are like the most common
Yeah,
symptoms.
those are the symptoms.
Yeah.
It was there for 2 days, and I took enough ibuprofen to kill.
To give
Anyway.
you stomach ulcer.
Well, is the fever, the
But
fever
two,
that they're talking about, is it
And
an
darn
ongoing?
Mucinex, you guys did not help me.
Is that fever that people are talking about, is it an ongoing fever, or is it just for a day and then it's gone? Or
Well, it's pretty much ongoing, but if you take Motrin or Tylenol, the fever's going to go down. So it's kind of being masked by the medication,
oh, right, of course.
you know.
Of course.
So it's
There's one other big factor, I think, and that is that if we were in Korea,
mhm,
Tom, Kat, you would have been tested immediately.
already?
That
Yeah.
is that from what I'm hearing, that's our biggest problem is
Mhm.
that we had a chance to buy them and we didn't, and now we're scrambling and
now it's scrambled.
Oh,
there might have been something about privatization, trying to make money off it, whatever it is, we
Right.
don't have them. And it's all over the country. And we keep hearing that we're going to get them, but everybody would like to know when.
Yeah.
And so one of the biggest problems is we're seeing now that our vaunted health system is not so great.
Right.
We're ranked number 34 in the world,
Hmm.
right? And
Ironically. Yeah.
they've been trashing Cuba, and Cuba is one of the top.
Hmm.
So
I just,
you got to wake up and smell the coffee and face reality. There's something wrong, and it needs to be addressed and fixed, not in tweaky ways.
Right.
It needs to really be aggressively addressed so that this should never happen.
Right. And I think that it's starting to be addressed. I do know that they're on Long Island, Northwell is they have the testing facility now. There's also Wadsworth facility up in I think in Albany. The other different labs on Long Island, they're testing now. But they're trying to create these tests and I think it's too the virus is spreading too quickly, to even start to even be able to test for everybody.
and so what if we went back to just basics for just a moment? So I was Josh was coaching me the other day, and we were doing a workout with triceps. So we're working with metal pieces, and all of a sudden I thought, I've got to get the hand sanitizer. So I've got these pieces, and I brought them over because I was fearful
Hmm.
of what my is this airborne? Is it just through cough? Is it something through?
It's through droplets. So if you're coughing, even if you're standing, they say like if someone isn't sick, stand 3 feet apart. Because even if they have it and you don't know they have it, even if they don't have symptoms, if they're spitting, like the saliva, it'll be in the saliva. So you don't want any contact with that. If they are coughing, you want to stay 6 feet away. I mean, and
If I use a tricep press down and I'm touching the same hands as somebody
well,
else,
I think you should wipe it down with Clorox, but they also don't know how long the virus lives on surface.
Oh,
Yeah, they don't know if it's 12 hours or 24 hours, or it could be up to a week. Who knows how long? I mean, the Clorox does kill it, but it's hard to say how long it was there before you got there, and
yeah. I didn't think about it until I
to work out at home. I would work out at home. Take the dumbbells that you have in your house and do them.
like, Josh, what are we gonna do? Just air squats?
Yeah. Well, they close. I mean, here on Long Island, they closed the restaurants. They closed the gyms. They've closed everything.
Same here.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. New York, everything is closed. Literally everything.
Yeah.
Well, Governor DeSantis here in Florida just issued an edict, 30 days shutdown for all bars. So that's really bad because February, March, now we're into the peak of the tourist season, snowbird season. And so it's like a death knell for the economy in the state. It's going to be really, really tough on people. So we don't just have a health crisis. Now we have an economic crisis.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, that's where it's headed. That's exactly what I was thinking. With everything shut down up here, we were talking about it a little while ago. the ability, just like small businesses, to like sustain themselves, and what's going to happen there, and how that then is going to affect the economy, how that's going to affect people's homes, and the
Mhm.
ability to provide just basic survival like necessities. So I it's that's the scary part. The
Yeah.
scary part is like what's going to happen, and then we were talking a little bit earlier about the supermarkets being wiped clean of things.
Yes.
Mhm.
um and
Stock
so
'em up.
yeah, nobody's going out, nobody's like,
Mhm.
how long before they shut down the supermarkets before
Yeah.
we can walk into
I
a super?
hope that. Oh God, do not. Oh,
I mean, I tried ordering from Whole Foods the other day, and they said it would take 3 days to deliver, and then they canceled my delivery on the day they were supposed to
Oh,
deliver,
man.
Yeah,
you know?
it's
But I did end up going to the super I went to, another supermarket, and there's still food, but you could see the shelves are starting to.
I couldn't even get toilet
Yeah.
paper.
Yeah. Well, I was
oh, not just toilet paper. I walked into the supermarket
everything.
and we can't find a can of beans or
Yeah.
a nothing, like no canned foods. There was barely any pasta. Like our supermarket shelves
Mhm.
in New York City, even up in Fishkill, East Fishkill and Fishkill, where I shop, wiped clean of everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, just go in the morning when they restock. And there's like 7 o'clock in the morning, there's barely anything there. There's no
Nothing.
restocking. So, but then that comes back to, the economy, and where are we going to be if like we're
Right.
not, churning out money and making money in different places?
Yeah.
It's
The giant pause on everything that none of us are going to be comfortable with. And
Mhm.
No one's ready for this. I
Well,
mean,
so let's go back to that moment of we're overreacting medically. I just want to go back to it because I've heard it over and over again.
yeah.
Is it feasible that, I'm not saying it's good or bad, I'm not saying it's right, but is it feasible that there's an overreaction, Corinna?
I mean, an overreaction in what way? You mean like
Well,
overreacting to
overreaction.
the fact that like everyone is scared of the virus, or
Being
like,
scared of the virus, we should be scared of the flu. So scared of, and I'm not. I'm only being the devil's advocate because I've
yeah,
had so many people talking in my ear,
yeah.
and so I have to answer.
well, I don't know if it's if
It's not
people are
my
scared.
point of view. That's other people's.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think
No, and like, well, go ahead.
I was just going to say that we've gone from being whether you believe in it or not. Now we're into these shutdowns. So now whether you believe it or not is kind of like now we're past that point.
Right.
So
Well, I think
shutdowns.
people are, the people that are saying, "Oh, can you believe all this overreaction?" Like you're saying that, like the people that I ran into, even in the hospital, that are saying that one guy asked me today, "Oh, can you believe this? How everyone's going?" And I said, "Well, it is a big deal. I mean, a couple, when we had the Ebola fear, we all were trained at the hospital we had our own room, a couple of rooms to quarantine people. We had to put our hazmat suits on and get retrained how to do that, and but it never affected us. We never actually saw it. When SARS happened, I don't think people were affected, but it wasn't like this, like, and I think everyone thinks coronavirus is similar to those pandemics, but those weren't nearly as bad as this.
Yeah.
And
So
I
then,
think the fact that like Disney World shut down and Disneyland shut down, everything's shutting down, like there's a reason for that. I mean, this is spreading.
Mhm.
It's just, you have to just assume that everyone has it or has come in contact with it, I think.
And I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure you said that. Because there's so many people who are so I'm like, guys, listen, the truth is,
Yeah.
and it's scary.
But not to panic about it. Just take care of yourself and make sure you do have enough food if you can. You know what I mean? Like if you're able to for the next couple of weeks,
But also how to
your
get through that
hands, take your
economic
vitamin
moment.
C.
right,
What's that?
because
Vitamin C,
then
oh, yeah, vitamin C. We'll get back to that, but the economic moment. I'm a contract worker, so
Mhm.
what does that feel like to me as not just as a musician, but also in the fitness world? What does it feel like? And it's not to me.
It's to a lot of
Hundreds of
people.
thousands of people who are in that same moment, especially in Nashville. Um,
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
it's
Well, I
it,
mean, not
it,
everyone has the
it's scary
luxury.
because there's no end date.
Yeah.
That's why it's
And
scary.
it still hasn't peaked yet.
Yeah.
So like it's the next 30 to 45 days, something like that. They're saying it's going to peak.
Mhm.
So how many more people you know, with the testing that's going to come out, they're going to test more people. It's going to show that it's affecting more people.
Yeah.
China, where it supposedly started, had a long bout with it. They didn't tell anybody for a long time, and it got crazy to where the
Right.
government shut everything down
Mhm.
because they can. Here,
Right.
it's not as easy. You know, I'm here in California. We're on shutdown, and we went to the Ralph's supermarket today, and it was packed.
Mhm.
And they were handing out wipes at the door, coming in and going out to, you know, wipe your
That's
hands.
good that they were doing that. Yeah.
So there's a lot, you know, there's things like that that are going on. But as we walked through the store, I thought, you know, anybody here that you're passing in the aisle
Mhm.
could be a carrier, or, and you know, and
Yep.
really, truth is, any of us could be.
I could have it and be asymptomatic right now.
Yeah.
Bobby had something how long ago, Bobby, was your thing?
Wait, what?
How long ago was the thing that you had that you think was a precursor of this virus?
December. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do my students' assignment online, which I haven't been an online teacher.
Yeah.
Tell them about your virus.
So
Your world.
back from Florida, the first week of December, and 2 days after we got back, it was the same thing. I had an insane fever, and I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. And I went to bed, and for 10 days I took cough medicine, which I've never done in my life. I just don't like. I don't take that kind. I don't like that feeling.
Mhm.
And I couldn't move without it. Remember, my back was going out. I just coughed, and I sat up in bed.
Yeah. So hers was a more virulent case than what you and Tom had, Kat.
Yeah.
But because it was really bad, and for about 3 days I thought I was getting it, and I never.
And I had a high
all the way
fever.
got it.
And I had a really high fever, and we misplaced the thermometer, which we can't find now that we're
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah, I would say if
Probably
you,
can't buy one at a store now.
Yeah.
If-
Exactly.
well, that's you know, probably, but the truth is, if that's another safety precaution, is have your thermometer and
Yeah.
take your temperature.
But
Well,
the
that's
other
the great
I
thing,
lost mine. I couldn't find it.
98.3 for so long, it's almost ridiculous.
Yeah,
Huh?
mine's low like that too.
but the other thing that happened when I got it is we went right straight to the doctor, and
Yeah.
she said, "Go home and get in bed and do not go anywhere." And it was Christmas parties were going on, and we didn't go to any. It was when I learned nothing matters. Like, I didn't get out of bed. I stayed in bed straight for like 7 days, and then I stayed home for 10, right?
Yeah, and
I've never been that way before.
No, I know you.
no,
Bob.
I'm, you know, like everybody else, I'm afraid of the virus. Of course, you know, you'd be a fool to not be afraid of the virus because it's virulent. I'm 70, so I'm in the high risk group with heart disease. I'm in the high risk group. I'm very scared of the virus, but I will tell you that when you talk about the economic, because it's a perfect storm, an economic collapse with a global pandemic.
Mhm.
And it's not just our market that's collapsing and our country that's having this problem.
Yeah.
It's happening everywhere.
Mhm.
And we're like almost in the back end, we're the last to get it. So if you talk about cracking the whip, you know, ours could be the worst yet. Who knows?
Right.
But I don't mean to be alarmist about it. What I mean to really talk about is how I think the economics also fueled one of our biggest problems is that in Marisol in the Bronx, they can't get, you know, that they're about, you know, they have a week guaranteed that they can still hand out food. This is a 2-month deal at the very least.
At the very least, yeah.
So we're gonna, I mean, as a community, I mean, we're gonna just hope that we rally together like we have for so many other like things, and not necessarily this bad, but we're New Yorkers, right? And so not to throw in like 9/11, but you know, the same way families rally together during 9/11 and after that, and when we
Sure.
rally together for all, like the hope is that that's what's going to happen. As long as someone can get a hold of some necessity, I feel like we're gonna come out of it as we like as a community. But it's scary. It's scary for everyone, just and on both ends, right? Like it's scary on the basic necessities. As an educator, students don't learn unless their food, shelter, and safety are taken care of. If they don't have those three basic things, trying us to try to teach them something is not really going to work. And so right now, there's the physical safety, the emotional safety, the health like aspect of it that everyone is afraid of, and then there's the economic piece. So two of the three pillars that are going to hold anybody together to be able to like learn something or to move forward are falling apart in our world. So it's so uncertain for
Do they have
everyone.
Marisol, do you have a robust food bank system up there? Because here in Florida, they have the Central East Coast here is a very robust food bank system. All the big grocery stores funnel down through the food banks. It's really well run. Here, I don't know what it's like there.
We don't. We just have like local. A lot of it is the different like religious organizations that provide services to the local community. Then there's organizations that just provide services to their clients. So it's all community based. It's not a big system that we put together that I kind of funnels it.
The grocery store systems that they funnel a massive amount of food through here what's called the Treasure Coast. It's kind of a nonprofit, but it's huge. They work with the kind of the community health clinic kind of system within those same kind of
Right.
agencies, and so they funnel a massive amount of food through the homeless and to the because we have a huge retirement community down here. It's just massive. So there's a whole doctor industry here in this area. But there's also you have a lot of low income elderly people, and so the food bank systems are very well run here. It's like clockwork almost. But I don't know how they're going to do now that we've got this big emergency going on. I don't know if it's how it's
Right.
going to,
Because even for your community, if they shut everything down and people can't leave their houses, then the same people who are going to be providing the generosity and the support can't get to the people who need it.
Well, one of the churches here in the area was dropping off hot meals for the elderly in this community where I live. So they were literally leaving they passed a note around and said, we'll be leaving a meal by the door. And so they left meals by the door. So it was no contact, or what they're now calling this contactless delivery thing, where, you get a knock on the door and the delivery person runs,
Yeah.
It's a legitimate DoorDash.
Exactly. Now they got a reason.
Levity.
Right? What's the matter? Do you think I have something? Actually, we do.
DoorDash. Okay.
But that's the one thing I've been noticing when we did go to the school today or to the store today. Usually we have bins out, especially at the holidays. There's bins like give extra food stuff. There's nothing going on anywhere. There's no numbers saying call this number if you want to donate money. There usually when we have something go on immediately, there's send money here or take your food here or take clothes here. We're not seeing any of that.
Us either.
Wow.
You're not either?
No. I mean, LA is the second largest school district in the country, right? New York City is the first one and LA is the second. And we're not seeing anything like that.
Yeah.
Me neither. And my school, I I teach at college and my situation is so different from yours, but even the college is oddly unmobilized.
Oh, yeah.
It's like everything's in a twilight zone almost.
I teach at the college level in the Bronx as well. And my college students are like, they're also like, they're not working. So how are they going to pay their tuition bills? How are they going to, because they're waitresses or they are tutors or, they work these like part-time jobs that they don't need them right now. So that's the other thing. It's like, what is it going to do to our university system?
Well, hasn't the messaging been, it almost caused a lot of the hoarding that went on because, they're saying battle stations, it's coming, everybody's going to turn into zombies. And so everybody raids the stores.
Right.
And
I
I don't
think it's
understand the toilet
also,
paper thing. Totally blew my mind. I'm like,
I know.
Yeah, I don't.
obviously
That
weren't
was
planning
the
for what
amount of
happened.
memes that have come out with the toilet paper thing are insane.
It is. It's
I
crazy.
know.
I know. I think it's like a control thing, actually, like because people feel so out of control right now, and that's something they can control, to go to the stores and buy things and hoard things. That's it. That's the only thing in their control, really. But
But that's another problem that I have with this is they're going to let the elderly, meaning me, in first, and I'm saying we have to let the mothers in. I have friends with little and nieces and nephews with like little babies, and they are losing it because they have to go to 6 stores to find their diapers or find food.
formula.
Let them in. What do you need to let me in for?
Mhm.
Let the kids in. It's so stressful watching it happen.
Yeah.
God.
Or like when they're selling now water in New York, and not being rationed, but that's kind of what it feels like. Is you go to the supermarket, you can only buy like 2 bottles or 2 cases of 24 or something like that. But you're like, okay, in the general scheme of things, that makes sense. But if you're a parent on formula, you need filtered, like clean bottled water, right? Like my brother feeds his daughter is 9 months old. She's on formula. I mean, now she's eating more solid, like solids and stuff, but for the most part, they're on formula. So if you can't buy water to mix your formula, then you can't feed your kids. And so kids who are younger than 9 months, as my niece is 9 months old, but babies, they need it. So they need water. And so, but now they're being selective of how much water they can get. So now what happens there, right? They're having to go to 2 or 3 different supermarkets to buy their portion of water so they can feed their kids. So I hear you.
Okay, I gotta go find them.
I know.
Yeah. I wish we had a solution to all of it. I'm hearing this and I'm pained because I'm a single woman and I don't have children. I have a Pekingese, I have a dog, and I'm pained to hear all of this. And I wish there was something that we could do to make it less painful for everybody.
I just think we need to, and this I guess a counselor in me, but fall back on the resiliency of humanity.
Yeah.
And the fact that at the end of the day, no matter what we see on the news or what like is really shuttled out to us, at the end of the day, a neighbor takes care of a neighbor. And so I think that we're gonna see, and what I have seen, at least in New York City, through the things that we've gone through in New York City, is that when times get tough, that's what we do. Like we ring the bell of the person next door, the person upstairs, and we say like, "Hey, I need water," or "Hey, do you have like, can you share a meal?" Or and at the end of the day, communities come together. So I think that we're gonna see what we're seeing right now is like the worst in people, right? The need to hoard, the need to bring in, but
Yeah.
the longer this goes on, I think that we might start to see the best in people. Oh, I have extra, so let me share, or I have, and that's my expectation. Maybe I'm an optimist, but
No,
my
go with it, please.
my expectation of humanity is that we're gonna start to look out for each other. I live upstate, right? The people across the road from me are elderly people whose children live out in Staten Island, right? So I'm gonna walk over and I'm like, "Hey, Vinny, how you doing? You guys have everything that you need." And so my expectation is that we're gonna come together in that sense as it gets worse. Like right now, we're on a survival mode, but as we start, like we're on a like let me get what I think I'm gonna need mode. But as it gets worse, I think that we're gonna see rationing, and we're gonna see like that humane part of us where we're like, okay, you need something, and I've known you for 20 years, so I'm gonna help you. And I think that that's where what we're gonna see come out of this is gonna be that kind of like compassion and empathy for each other.
Well, I think that's the main thing is just that positive attitude. Because I get a lot of people haven't been through this, but it's like if you're sitting there, and you're building up all this anxiety. What are you doing to help anything?
Right.
Breathe. You're going to get through it. I mean, going back to like Tom and Kat, like, okay, even if you had this and you got tested, I mean, nothing would have changed. You weren't sick enough to be hospitalized, so you literally just would have had to separate yourself, a little social isolation, and just self-care is all you need to do. That's all everyone needs to do. And if that was what you had, I mean, look, you guys are better now. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's going to get worse. I mean, with the supermarkets possibly closing, they didn't close in Italy. What they need to do is kind of monitor how many come in, how many come out. Certain things, yes, monitor what you can take. Obviously, when it comes to children, formula, things like that, there's exceptions. But I mean, even going to the local market, they're like, if you're buying Clorox wipes, try to keep it to 4 bottles. Just monitor what people are doing. Keep everything like in like minimal things. Don't come in and say, yes, I can buy this entire like cart full of Lysol wipes when someone's over here can't do any. So unless you're out donating those, then don't just limit to what you're doing. Just keep everything in moderation and we'll be fine. It's going to get a little worse here. I mean, look at I've got friends in San Francisco, they're on complete lockdown.
Yeah.
So they've got it worse than some of us do now. At least we get to kind of hang out and kind of get out and around. So we've got it better than some. Some obviously are struggling, but it's like, not everyone is going to be on total lockdown. Like, don't get over paranoid. But even if that does happen, just know there's someone that's worse than we are. So like staying positive the whole thing and not sitting there and be like, oh, poor, pity me. What am I going to do? You're doing the same thing everyone else is doing. So it's like, if we sit there and jump on each other's backs with the negativity, what does that do good for society at all? Nothing. Just like you were saying, like you've got, friends and neighbors who are elderly. They're going to need a little help. Where I live, it's more of a younger community, anywhere from like, your 20s to 40s. And everyone's in pretty good health for the most part, but everyone knows somebody who is struggling. So the least you can do is try to be there for them. The best thing about social media, look where we're all from all over the country right now, but we all know someone in that area. So like, hey, if you don't have someone in Staten Island, I got somebody. So let me see if we got someone who can check up on somebody. So people can do that also, just be there to sort of like help each other out. And I think that's the big thing. Like we're going to go through a little bit of a rough time. This isn't the first time it's happened. It's not going to be the last time. We're just told to sit on our couch and relax. We're not being called to war. We're not being called to go out and fight or do anything. Just sit and chill for a little bit. Just relax. Do your best. Try to stay positive. You can now communicate with people virtually like we're doing. So if someone needs help, it's easier to reach out to them than it was, even 10, 15, 20 years ago. Right. So we'll be good, but I think a lot of it's just trying to stay positive because there's always someone that's worse, like listening to your children that you teach at the school that can't eat. Like I went grocery shopping. I had the opportunity to be able to do that. Right. That's great. They might not be able to eat for more than 1 week. So what do they do the next 7 to 12 weeks? You know what I mean? And that's like, I'm sitting like, man, how can I ship my food to them, like overnight that somehow and have it delivered? Because I'm lucky enough to have more than enough. Now there's someone who probably has an entire second home full of food, and that's great for them. But it's like, there's always someone who's worse off. So us sitting here like, poor me. Well, yeah, what about poor them? And instead of just poor them, like, and then how can we help them? Like who do I know in LA that might be able to, maybe Ned's like, oh, I got somebody that, I can send stuff to, or,
if somebody. We could put links up for Marisol for your school into the description on YouTube. We can put if people want to donate computers or food, it doesn't always have to be canned goods. Actually go down the fresh section of the fresh vegetables and get some of that stuff for the kids too. People could maybe donate to your schools if you guys, have a contact that we can put in the description on YouTube. That'd be great.
Yeah, I'm totally. Well, so we could totally talk about that offline on how we can get that to happen, because that would be wonderful. Yeah, like speaking to Josh, like we're gonna be fine. I told my friends in a little lightheartedness, but I'm like, this is like a nationwide nap time. Because everybody take a pause and take a deep breath, like and so we look at it, we could look at it like it's doomsday and waiting for like Will Smith to come out and like save us from like the zombie apocalypse, or we can look at it as like, this is how we're going to like be resilient and fight through this. So
yeah, I mean, and that's it. Like it, I mean, you're there, everyone's joking about all the babies that are going to be coming in come December, and it's like,
yeah, exactly.
That's the worst thing we have to worry about. We're going to be okay. I mean, trying to I like to joke out as much of things as I can, because I understand this is obviously very serious. I've got some friends that are that work in the hospitals here. And so like I kind of get to hear and see certain things, and it's a big deal. But I also think some people will sit there and look at pop culture media and not real news. Some people can't form their own opinion, and so they look at it just fake news and be like, "Oh, this is what I heard." Well, that's what you saw in someone's story or someone's meme on Instagram, because that's where everyone goes to right now. Not as many people are using Twitter or Facebook or things, but it's like there's real relevant sources that you can go and get some information from. And it doesn't matter if you're a CNN person or a Fox News or MSNBC. Look at all of it and like form your own opinion. But there's options out there other than just, I saw this one story from my friend whose cousin told me about this thing they saw on this meme, and this is what I heard, we're all going to die. Well, let's not be extreme about this, but like try to, I'm not saying make light of it. That's personality, but like breathe, be through. Like that's a great. Like it's nap time for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, just relax. Internet's not
Except
out.
for
You still have
cat.
plenty of options. Yeah,
Okay. Amazon's still delivering.
Except for
good.
cat.
Not everything.
I know, Josh, I know you're going to wrap us up in a minute, but I want to say that there are vulnerable pieces of our society, and I had cause to pause when I spoke to my dad and my stepmom today. And it was a really interesting moment to communicate with them and know that they are staying inside because they know that they are vulnerable. And so I would like to say to the well, I shouldn't just say the millennials, but the young whippersnappers, guys, Corinna, who has gone to school with me since freshman year in high school, is now laughing at me for saying whippersnappers. But that's just my vibe. It's okay, Cor. But here's the deal.
I say it too, Kat.
I know, lady. That's why. but here's the deal, guys. Really, for all of you who are watching, and I know that some will watch later and some are watching now. Understand that being selfless and being loving to the people around you, you don't know what you're spreading. You have no clue. And sometimes that moment of cause to pause and take a moment to be at home, understand that will make a difference for other people. I will say that it would hurt me profoundly to lose my father and my stepmom. They are incredible people and I love them dearly. And I know they're scared. And it was rare to hear my father have a cause to pause, because that's not him. He's I'll just say he's different than that. He's I've got it all together. But today I could hear that in his voice. And so I will say to the younger generation, please love your older generation, and know that this is just a moment to breathe. Settle back, breathe, take a moment, respect, and that's all I'll say, because it's I'm emotional about a lot of things right now. But Josh, I'll let you close out the show.
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to thank everyone for coming on the show tonight and being a part of it, and having such different perspectives is great, because it's a lot of people here. I mean, we call it Music City Fitness, and we try to focus on the Nashville community, but we're kind of behind what's going on in New York and LA, and we don't have the physician assistants that are here to kind of like give us advice on what could be coming our way. So it's it's just trying to tell people, don't panic, be smart. Like Kat was saying, love on each other from at least 6 feet away. Be there for each other. We'll definitely get some links up on how we can help some of the students and the kids, and what we can do for food and especially like laptops, anything like that. Because it only takes knowing one person in that area who may have a connection with everything. I mean, everyone's about 2 degrees of separation away from each other anymore. So, but we'll get those links up for everybody. But again, next week we'll have a few more guests. We're going to try to get some of my friends that are on lockdown in San Francisco and kind of get their vision on what they're doing, and hopefully this will kind of help them from being bored and being at each other. But I mean, I know people joke around about cabin fever and, oh, I'm with my spouse or my partner. What am I going to do? I don't know. Love on them, because whatever they have, you have. You're good. So you're just going to self quarantine. It's better than pulled away from that person. Like, name your baby.
You have.
I don't care. It's fine. It'll be fine. But no, seriously, thank everybody for coming out tonight and being a part of it. And we'd love, this is obviously going to be going on for a little while, unfortunately. Love to maybe get you guys back on and kind of get some insight on anything. Brent, especially like, if you come across some things, you're like, here's what we're finding out, in New York, and this is what's working here. And here's some tips and pointers. That would be fantastic, because you guys seem ahead of the curve on what we have going on here. But anyway, for those y'all watching, thank you again. Subscribe, like the page. We appreciate y'all so much for coming in and tuning in. We'll be back next week, 7:30. We'll probably be discussing the same topic. I think we got a lot of the seriousness out of the way. I think next week it'd be good to get people on who have some funny stories. What is something your partner or spouse is doing that's driving you nuts right now? Like, looking at and Bobby, they're doing.
Wait, Bobby has one.
I've got so many right now.
That's okay, Josh and Bobby. You guys will have a great exchange.
We can relate well. It'll be good. But thank you guys again. I do appreciate it very much. We will sign out, but we will see you guys next week. Thank y'all.
Big love, you guys.
Thanks for joining us on Music City Fitness. We had a blast, and thank you for all your questions. Come hang with us next week, same time, same station.